Unpacking a Standard by Sharalee Gunther. Unpacking a standard is simply translating a standard into teachable lessons. I can do this by identifying two main things. The first is what students need to know, the big ideas, the nouns, the content, and the second is what students need to do, the skills and the verbs that students use to demonstrate mastery. When deciding on a specific standard to unpack for this activity, I went straight to the QSI curriculum website since I am currently teaching at a QSI school. QSI stands for Quality Schools International, and it has a set curriculum for all 36 of its schools. As a homeroom teacher, I'm expected to follow the curriculum standards and outcomes for each unit in every subject. Most subjects include 10 units per year with a typical time frame of about 3 weeks per unit. And for those that need to find the website, the specific curriculum for all grade levels and subjects can be downloaded by administration, teachers, students, and parents at the following website. And here it is listed below. The specific standard that I'm choosing to unpack, I went further into the curriculum files and I went under elementary, the elementary section. Then I found my age level, which was 8-year-olds, that's the 3rd grade level. The subject I chose was cultural studies. The unit was EO2. EO2 simply stands for essential unit number 2. And then the title of the unit is types of government. So why did I choose the standard that I'm going to be talking about? The first reason is because it's, first of all, QSI curriculum. Since I'm currently teaching at QSI Chengdu in China, I thought it would be important to choose a standard that would be from the school I'm teaching. Secondly, it's an 8-year-old standard. At QSI, they call it 3rd grade 8-year-old level. And out of my 7 years with QSI, 6 have been with 8-year-olds. I love teaching this age level because they're usually sweet and eager to learn, and they still are mature enough to be able to handle independent or group projects and activities. The subject I decided to focus in on is cultural studies because along with reading, cultural studies is probably my favorite subject to teach. I'm passionate about reading and learning about history. I like to learn about famous people, cultures, events, and cultural studies is also an easy to use for hands-on activities and projects. And the last reason why I chose this standard was because besides it being fun and interesting to me, it also presents a challenge because cultural studies is a non-core subject at QSI, which means that all students are in every cultural studies class. So that would include all of my high level, mid level, low level, special needs, intensive English students or ELL. And this presents a challenge because I have to really vary my teaching to meet the needs of all my different learners. So here I've copied my standard sample right from the QSI curriculum, and it says the student will learn about different types of governments, monarchy, parliament, dictatorship, theocracy, democracy, and republic, how they are similar and different, and what it means to be a citizen of a country. I've highlighted the 3 main big ideas with yellow. And then one thing I've noted is that in the QSI language, standards are not called standards. Instead, they're called unit statements. The big ideas and nouns from the standard can really be grouped into 4 different categories. Although number 1, government, is not explicitly stated in the standard, it really is one of those things that has to be covered first before they can even get into different types of government. So I've listed that as number 1 of the big ideas and nouns, just understanding government. Number 2 is for students the different types of government, and then including all those different types that were mentioned in the standard. Number 3, or the 3rd big idea or noun, are similarities and differences of the types of government. And then number 4 would be citizenship. What does it mean, and how can students be good citizens? Okay, so moving into the second part of unpacking the standard. What are the specific skills or verbs that students should develop in meeting this standard? Well, first of all, I noticed that in the unit statement, there was a non-specific or very general verb used within the statement. It just simply said the student will learn. So how will students demonstrate the big ideas from the standard or unit statement? In the QSI language or lingo, the specific skills are broken down into TSWs. TSW simply means the student will. Underneath my unit statement, I found 7 essential skills or outcomes for the unit, and each of them begins with a TSW. And remember, that stands for the student will. So number 1, the student will define government and explain its importance. I've highlighted each of the verbs in yellow. Number 2, the student will identify major forms of government and give at least one characteristic of each. Number 3, the student will recognize symbols of a nation and tell why they are important. Number 4, the student will interpret what it means to be a citizen of a country different than your own. Number 5, the student will describe the basic U.S. governmental system. 6, the student will compare and contrast 2 forms of government. And 7, the student will locate and summarize a current event about one type of government. On the next 7 slides, I've listed different projects or activities related to each of the TSWs that I just mentioned. I tried to give a very basic idea. The first part of each assignment is kind of a learn portion, and then my students have a respond portion, and each of them are activities related to those skills. I'm going to let you just scroll through those since I'm running out of time for my slideshow or video. So that's the next 7. When monitoring the progress of the standard or the skills, at the beginning of the unit, students are given a folder, and on the back of the folder is something I call a requirement page, which is really just a student rubric. I use that same rubric when I actually give them their grade and their score. Throughout the unit, the students keep track of their own progress, and they do that by adding up and putting points into different columns for each TSW on their own page. So they actually see what they're doing as they go along. I also track that same progress or their points for each TSW in my own lesson plan book. At the end of the unit, I simply tally the scores, add the scores, and circle the grade on each student's requirement page or their rubric. I copy and file each rubric, and then I send the folders home with the students, so they automatically have a copy of how they got their score, how they got their grade. And the grade is kind of like a point system, kind of like a video game. So they're trying to get their highest score. The highest score is 100 points. And then they have a scoring system at the bottom of the requirement page, and it says 0 to 74 points is an E, which stands for exposure, or a D. 65 to 89 points is a B. 90 to 100 points is an A. So all along the process, the students and myself are kind of keeping track of how they're doing as they go. Even though throughout the entire unit I'm giving little mini assessments along with every TSW or lesson, I'm still also at the end of each unit I give a summative project, and for this unit I plan on, or I have done a project called Home Country Flipbook, and this combines all the TSWs or skills for the entire unit. I usually give them between 3 and 4 class periods for this. They research information about their own home country. We create a little flip book. They put information into each of the sections related to their country and related to the TSWs, and then they get a final score, and usually this is worth 25 points, so 1/4 of their final grade. Then just for fun, as a unit finale, I plan a home country cultural feast where every student brings in some kind of food item that is special in their home country, and they describe it, they explain it, they introduce it to the class, and then we enjoy a feast together to end our unit. I hope you enjoyed unpacking a standard.